Hello and good afternoon. My name is Martin Coward, and welcome to Noonday Meditation and excuse me, my mind's gone crazy. And welcome to Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour, where we gather here every day at noon Eastern Daylight Time, Monday through Saturday, to love and support each other through this pandemic, where we look at going inside ourselves. We look at spiritual principles to resolve our problems, our concerns, and our worries of this crisis. And there's currently no lack of worry and concern and stress in our world right now. We are certainly going through one of the most challenging and painful and difficult times in the history of humankind, and certainly in modern history. And I sense that because we now have such incredibly powerful technology, we can so easily connecting us with people all over the world who are experiencing this. We can so easily get pulled into the drama of it all. Our stress and our worries and our fears can quickly get amplified. And that's why we come together, because we need to acknowledge that. And, this whole idea of stress really, and what comes up from it is always comes down to me. The ego is always pessimistic. It is its job. It always is pessimistic. It's always identified with a terrible future. It looks at past situations and gives them an interpretation that's negative, because we have a negative feeling about it. And then it projects that into the future. So we get worried and we get, oh my God, we're going to lose everything. The world's going to fall apart. And also we feel somewhat like victims of the world. We feel like we're a victim of COVID-19, and we want out. And I'm going to suggest, but that is the job of the ego. It's never going to change. It is always creating a false identification with something negative. And it usually comes down to some version of scarcity, like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough. Something is wrong with me. Something is lacking in me as an individual. And that creates a scary outcome, because we have so much fear that we can't see the truth. We are blinded by the truth. We are imprisoned by our own drama, if you will. I call that the drama triangle. And it's rooted in our sense of victim. It could come up in things like depression. It can come up in small things. Like, for example, let's say you say, I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. The problem with saying I'm an introvert is this. You're defining who you are as a mental construction of what you think an introvert is. Okay? Because that's what the ego does. The ego says, okay, whenever you identify with anything in the external world, it can be just as benign as I'm an introvert. You begin to identify with that as that's who you are. And you begin to live into that identity of what you believe an introvert looks like. We actually create identities. The ego creates identities to get its needs met. And it will do, it's conniving. It's so clever. It is constantly trying to find ways to create a false sense of identity to get what it wants. So if it creates an idea that an introvert doesn't have joy. Maybe an introvert doesn't have, the introvert, And always, it's going to be a pessimistic view of yourself, because that's what the false self is. It's not true. So it's going to create the opposite of the truth. That's why it's called the false self. It is not a true self. And truth is optimistic. Truth is creative, and falsehood is destructive. So it's going to create a destructive view of yourself. You are going to identify a persona, if you will, of something that's destructive and painful. And that's what causes stress. We are in a stressful place right now because we are identifying, we've created all sorts of identities of ourselves inside this pandemic, or other things as well. But by now that seems to be the lingering, the looming thing going on right now. But what we can learn from that is through contemplative prayers, we can go in and we can discover the truth. We can transcend that limiting belief, that identification, and realize that's not who we are. And as soon as we become aware of the truth, it dissolves. And so does our stress. That's why we do contemplative prayer. That's why we have this practice to go inside of ourselves to find the truth. Remember what contemplative prayer is? It's get still, surrender the story. I'm whatever I am. I'm depressed. I'm an introvert. I'm a victim of COVID-19. I'm whatever it is. We have to find some way to question the validity of this belief system. And so that's what we do. We go into prayer, we surrender it, and we listen for truth. You say, well, I'm feeling like I'm a victim of the world right now. The world feels like it's against me. That's what you're experiencing in the moment. And so the thing is, you accept that. I'm accepting the fact that I'm experiencing stress right now, and it's at an all-time high. But if you're experiencing stress, that means that you are stuck in what I might call the ego, the drama triangle of the ego, which is I've either got to violate somebody, I got to hurt somebody, blame somebody, hurt somebody. I've got to rescue somebody, or I need to be rescued from this drama triangle, from this horrible world that I've been treated so badly in, or I'm a victim of it. So it's like the drama triangle is. We're usually experiencing them all at the same, because we want to get out of it. It's painful, and we want to get out of it. And the ego always is a pessimist. It uses fear and falsehood to control us, and that's where we get our stress. And that's an all-time high right now as we enter into this pandemic, as we are in this pandemic. And then when you look on the news and you see our leaders who are particularly at the federal level, thank God we've got good leadership in the local levels, particularly in our school systems. But the lack of leadership at our national at the national level is vacant, and that's painful. And we think we're victims of it. We're not victims of anything, really. I don't know. I'm not condoning it, and it's painful. But the reality is that we begin to take it personally that the president's ignoring the scientists on how we could slow down the death rate of COVID-19. We take it personally, and it's not personal. It's his inadequacy. He's dangerous. Don't get around it. Don't get me wrong. You get someone who has that kind of personality disorder and put them in a place of power, they can be dangerous. There's no doubt, and that's painful, and that's what we're experiencing. So the question becomes, well, how do we get out of that? How do we get out of the drama triangle? Because I don't want to live through this in stress. I want to find a place within me that's going to figure out how we help solve this problem, how we get ourselves out of this predicament of what I'd call a very toxic world that we've created for ourselves, because we have been living infatuated with the fear and the pessimism of our egos, I think since the beginning of time. I think we've always had that, but I think it's getting better. It seems to me, anyway, that there is a movement of love and compassion and leadership that's coming into existence largely from the divine feminine to bring us into peace and to create a world that's not toxic, a world that is loving and nurturing and creative and resourceful and a fun place to live in, something we can be enthusiastic about. So meditation is not about going inside ourselves and getting quiet and sort of stern and, worrying and all that. It's really about letting go of the stress and getting enthusiastic and getting curious about what we could create if we weren't stuck in the drama triangle. If we weren't stuck in these thoughts and emotions that our egos keep continuously throw out there. And it's clever. It is really clever because it's clever more than it's intelligent, because it will catch up with us. It catches up with me all the time. And I have to come back to this practice. I came back to this practice and let it go. And I would say today, by practicing this, I am enjoying, if I could say that, if I'm enjoying this moment right now. And I'm enthusiastic about the possibilities of what we can co-create together. I first accepted the fact that I can't control the way the world is right now. I can't control COVID-19. I cannot control the president. I cannot control anything, really. I don't have control of one single thing, particularly at the human level. And that's what causes stress. We want to control it. We want to fix it. But we can't. We can't fix it. But we can solve it. We can solve it. Let's see who this is here. There's my good friend, Mindy. How are you doing today? Again, if you're joining us on this noonday meditation, please do what Mindy just did and just type in your name into the chat box, and let me know you're here. We're talking about how we can get enthusiastic in the time of COVID-19. Hey, Michael, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Nice to have you here today. Oh, shoot. Let me put this on airplane mode so it doesn't do that. Because when we begin to act enthusiastically, that shifts something within us to begin to get out of all that negativity and stress that is constantly coming at us from the egoic mind, from our egos. That's what the ego does, by the way. It's doing it to protect. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way it's the way the human being works, basically to protect itself. And it creates fear when fear doesn't exist. So it makes us want to stop and say, well, what's really happening here? Is this really true? Is there anything going on that I really need to be afraid of in this moment? Oh no, I'm sitting here in my porch. The clouds are out. It's a nice day. Got food in the refrigerator. Don't have a lot of money coming in right now, but everything's good, and then I can begin to get enthusiastic about creating something new and projecting that out into the future instead of projecting fear and negativity into the future. That's exactly right, Ruth. Thank you for saying we are so wrapped up in the external world that we forget to look within from where the thoughts and feelings come from. Thanks for reminding us about getting within. Yes, that's what we do, because when this is the thing, Rohit. When the external world is validating our internal, when the external world of conflict and pain validates our internal conflicts, we're stuck in what I would call the drama triangle. Because we believe that's the way the world is, because that's what we see. We see it in here, we see it out there, we think that's all there is. So we have to go inside ourselves through contemplative prayer and get still and surrender these crazy beliefs, surrender our ego, our egoic personalities that need to be right, that need to win, need to fix, need to do whatever. We got to surrender all of that. All the time, moment to moment to moment. It's a constant practice. And when you practice it enough intentionally for 20 minutes, my nose is just itching me like crazy this morning. Let's be having, maybe some money's coming. I think money's itching. Hey, I don't know what a itchy nose means, but it's kind of annoying. But the point I want to make today is that if we can let go of our egoic negativity, then through prayer, meditation, and surrender that and listen for the truth, we have a lot to be enthusiastic about. And you'll notice that when you begin to experience a sense of curiosity and enthusiasm within yourself, then you begin to see a world out there that you can be curious about the world, and you can begin to get enthusiastic about your part in what you can play in creating a world that's toxic. Not toxic at all. We can create a world that's not even toxic, because the world, we create a toxic world. Our egos have created this toxic world we live in. And our egos are not going to give it up, get out of it, because it wants that. It wants that. It is invested in it, and it's going to do everything it can to keep us trapped in that space. And that's stressful, that's painful. But as clever as it is, it's not very intelligent, because there is an infinite intelligence within all of us that if we can just connect to that and listen to it, it all dissolves. And now we have the opportunity to create something pretty exciting. And that's a much more exciting and enthusiastic way to live. And that's how we get through this. I want to read a little bit from, I'm really enjoying this book. I've been listening to it again, and I want to read a little bit about emotions and the ego. The voice in the head tells a story that the body believes in and reacts to. Those reactions are the emotions. The emotions, in turn, feed energy back to the thoughts that created the emotion in the first place. This is a vicious circle between unexamined thoughts and emotions, giving rise to emotional thinking and emotional story making. The emotional component of egos differs from person to person. In some egos, it's greater than in others. Thoughts that trigger emotional responses in the body may sometimes come so fast that before the mind has had time to voice them, the body has already responded with an emotion, and the emotion has turned into a reaction. Those thoughts exist at a pre-verbal stage and could be called unspoken, unconscious assumptions. One of those could be the unconscious, unspoken assumption that the world is out to get me. COVID is out to get me. They have their origin in the person's past conditioning, usually from early childhood. People cannot be trusted would be an example of such an unconscious assumption in a person whose primordial relationship, that is to say with parents or siblings, were not supportive and did not inspire trust. Here are a few common unconscious assumptions. Nobody respects and appreciates me. I need to fight to survive. There is never enough money. Life always lets you down. I don't deserve abundance. I don't deserve love. Unconscious assumptions create emotions in the body, which in turn generate mind activity and or instant reactions. In this way, you create your personal reality. The voice of the ego continuously disrupts the body's natural state of well-being. Almost every human being is under a great deal of strain and stress, not because it is threatened by some external factor, but from within the mind, which is exactly what I think that you said a minute ago. We are trapped within our mind. Read that again. Almost every human body is under a great deal of strain and stress, not because it is threatened by some external factor, but from within the mind. The mind has an ego attached to it, and it cannot but respond to all dysfunctional thought patterns that make up the ego. Thus, a stream of negative emotion accompanies the stream of incessant and compulsive thinking. Do positive emotions have the opposite effect on the physical body? Do they strengthen the immune system, invigorate and heal the body? They do. They do. Indeed, but we need to differentiate between positive emotions that are ego generated and deeper emotions that emanate from your natural state of connectedness to being. That's important. It's kind of like just think positive. If you just think positive, if you just fake positive, you'll feel better. It doesn't work that way. You can't kind of spiritually bypass you. If you're feeling negative emotions, you first got to accept the fact that you're feeling and feel it. You can't just sort of like say, well, I'm feeling like I could, I don't know, jump off. I feel like I just want to go to bed because I'm so depressed right now. Was saying, oh, but I'm really, but that's wrong. I can't think negative thoughts about depression. I guess I'll just create an illusion that I'm happy. Okay, I'm happy right now. That's another false identification with something that's not true, because the ego thinks I can get out of here if I just pretend to be happy. Or you can say, I'm not happy right now. I'm under stress and I don't know what to do. I don't know what happiness is this depression or this bad feeling is trying to tell me. So what we do is we practice going inside ourselves and look at where do those thoughts and feelings come from. And we question their validity. Is it true? Whatever it's trying to tell you, whatever it's trying to teach you, you just question their validity. Say, I don't know if the world's against me, but it sure doesn't feel very good. I'm going to surrender this right now, let it go, and ask for some truth. I'm going to listen for the truth. And I have always found that when I do that, sometimes sooner than later, but through this practice, it goes away. Because it's not true. It's a shadow of it's the shadow of the light in the first place. So when the light begins to shine on the shadow disappears. The false image disappears. And now we step into the power of love and the authentic joy that's within us to begin to create something new. And you know you're tapped into it because it wants to create. It wants to create. It doesn't want to destroy. It is optimistic about tomorrow. It is optimistic about the future. I had a friend of mine the other day. She's pretty spiritual, and she said, "Well, I had this vision. It's going to be a lot worse." I said, "That vision that you had was an illusion of your ego. Because if your illusion of a negative tomorrow It's not coming from the creative source within us. It's not coming from the divine spark we have. It is coming from something else, the ego, to keep you trapped. That's what I mean by the ego is clever, particularly for those of us who become somewhat spiritually uh, uh, inclined or spiritually inspired, because it's as bright as my light gets. It is getting cleverer and clever. So it's like, oh, I had this vision that this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. We got a lot more pain to go through. That's a prediction of the future that's negative. And I can absolutely guarantee you it did not come from the divine. Because the divine does not create negativity. It always is, because negativity by its nature is destructive. See, that's what causes stress. So just let it go. So I want to finish this paragraph. They do indeed, but we need to differentiate between positive emotions that are ego generated and deeper emotions that emanate from your natural state of connectedness with being. And you know the difference, because you're not, you've let go of any future. It's more of a powerful presence within you, that powerful, peaceful presence within you that doesn't predict negativity into the world. So that again, when we're connected to that presence, it's powerful, it's peaceful, and it's not ever, ever going to project negativity into the future. That's what the ego does beautifully. But I'm going to tell you something else. The ego is a construction of our minds, that false self. And if we can question the value, I find that our bodies, our minds, and maybe that's called alignment. Yeah, isn't that funny when you see your know-it-all? You know, I know that part of me too. You know, the truth is I don't know anything. I actually do not know one thing. I don't know anything about the divine. I just can tell you about my experiences of it, but I have no idea what it really is. You know, I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. But I can tell you this. The know-it-all is a part of me that wants to be right. I'm not right or wrong. I'm just telling you about my experience and what feels better. For me, it feels better to be connected to the Joy, the wise woman within me, because my afternoon, when she's running the show versus my ego running the show, it says, I don't, my ego saying, that's what's written. My ego saying, I don't know. But there's a part of me that does. And I can surrender to that. And she, I call it she, because I think that's the character of the divine feminine. It gives it that characteristics. But she knows exactly what's going on. The truth will set you free. The truth will set you free from the trap of the ego thinking mind, the trap of falsehood, this trap of stress, this trap of. So let's do some meditation here together. And because listen, I appreciate you coming, and I do this because I want to kind of begin to hopefully, for myself and for you, because I have the same issue. My ego gets going in the day, in the morning. I turn on I try to avoid any news, and it irritates the devil out of me. When across my phone, I get these absurd notices that, I don't know, Trump's done something or somebody's done something, and it's like coming in and grabbing me back into the drama triangle. This thing does, social media particularly. So we have to get out of that, and that's what we're going to do right now. But Martin can't take you. I can sort of share my truth with you, but I can't take you. But this next 20 minutes is an opportunity to do that. this 20 minutes is an opportunity for you to really tap into your power. Because you got it in there. Your power to begin to be creative and enthusiastic about your role and what we're doing in this tremendous time of evolution to create what I'd call a planet that is nurturing, loving, and comes from prosperity and enjoy. It comes from the truth. We're going to build new economic structures. We're going to build new social structures that are grounded in the truth and not in some toxic story of not enough. We've been addicted to fear way too long. And prayer is the best way to surrender our addiction. So let's set the timer for 20 minutes and let's meditate. Please join me in the meditation, because that's really where the power is in this conversation. And the power in this hour is not me talking, much as I love to talk. The power in this hour is all of us listening, getting still and listening. And I'm going to set the, it's called an insight timer. And for those of you who, it's an incredibly good device to have for meditation and contemplative prayer. The one thing I really like about it is the interval. You call it she too. Yeah, I do too. I think we're all calling on the divine, and let's call on her right now. Let's do this. Let's raise our hand and let's feel the divine presence within our fingers. Let's feel that life force within our hands. Just get still for a minute and bring our awareness into the life, the spirit within us. Embody the spirit. That's just how far she is. She is us. She is the life force within us. That's the truth. And the more we can get out of our way and let her run the show, it's a really exciting way to live, I got to tell you. The more I practice this, the more I realize I live in a state of love, joy, and prosperity. That is the truth. In the middle of all this, so get still. Here I am talking some more. Martin, get still and listen. Let go. Become aware of the beating of your heart. Begin to get still and just listen to the heart. Feel the heart beating. And open the heart a little bit wider. And surrender all your thoughts, all your opinions, all your judgments, all your beliefs to the heart. Just let them go. Hold on to nothing. Hold on to nothing. Whatever you believe is right and wrong, true or false, good or bad, hot or cold, let it go. Let it go and be still. And when thoughts and emotions rise up, and they will in the next 20 minutes, accept them and let them go. Just accept them. and let them go. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am the Divine Mother holding you right now. So let go of everything else. I got you. I got your back. Allow the bell to wake you up from a trance and reset. Let go of whatever you were thinking about. We're going to do something a little different in the last 2 minutes of our meditation. I'm going to interrupt you. And I'm going to give you something to think about. But I want you not to just think about it. I want you to feel into this. I want you to feel your way back into your childhood. When you were a little boy or a little girl. A time when the world was somewhat innocent. You didn't have a lot of worry. You didn't have a lot of stress. You enjoyed playing and living. And the invitation is to feel your way back into that time and see yourself. And what was it you really loved to do? What did you enjoy doing more than anything else? What were you enthusiastic about? When were you the happiest? Feel your way into that space. Feel your way back into that memory. That memory when whatever you were doing just brought you such a sense of joy and peace. What did you uniquely love to do? And when we come back in a minute, the invitation is to, in just one sentence, type it into the chat in the third person. It sounds like this. When Martin was a little boy, he loved to ride his bike. What did you love to do when you were a little boy or a little girl? Just in one sentence, type that into the chat. And do it in the third person. When Mindy was a little girl, when Ruby was a little girl, when Michael was a little boy, he loved to fill in the blank. And put it into the chat. If you're still here. I'm looking at the board, and as always, people seem to disappear during the meditation. They didn't know they're going to get a little bonus at the end, did they? What did you love to do as a little boy or a little girl? Here we go. Beautiful. When Michael was a little boy, he loved to ride roller coasters. When Rohit was a little boy, he liked to walk in the farms. And when Mindy was little, she loved to play tetherball. Feel into what that is. Feel into what it was like. And bring that little boy and little girl back to life today. What do you love to do? What brings you joy? What brings you enthusiasm? Might even write about that. Whatever we're doing, it should bring us love, joy, enthusiasm, excitement, creativity. It's an action we can take to get out of something, to get out of the drama. Because there's no denying when you were a little boy, a little girl, you loved doing that, didn't you? That's the truth. That's the truth will set you free. So thank you for joining me tomorrow. My dear friend Daniel Stern is going to be joining me, and he's going to be actually leading this tomorrow. I've got a course tomorrow to take at noon. A little after that, I want to attend. So we will continue to gather, and I will be here, but I will not be leading it. But Daniel is a wonderful yoga teacher and spiritual teacher, so he'll be here to fill in. And it brings me a lot of joy to know he's coming to join us. So if you will, look forward to seeing you tomorrow. In the meanwhile, may love and prosperity prevail.